What's going on, gents? Happy Friday. It's Brian Bandas back with The Married Man. So good to be talking to you. So I know this week I took the week off on the email, and I sent an email that I wrote probably a year ago. And it was one that I got a pretty strong response to, and that's why I wanted to share it, because it has seemed to be one that has some punch to it. But I think it has some punch because it hits us right here, right? We, I think, are all born pretty innately to want to win, to want to conquer. And the interesting thing, the sort of challenging thing, is that in most areas of my life, what that looks like is asserting my will, asserting my dominance, right? That's why we like to watch football players. That's why heck man, I even like watching chess and the freaking struggle, and at the end the dude wins and the one guy is like a puddle and the other one's victorious, and like we love that type of domination. We love outwitting, out strategizing, out muscling someone. We like that type of conquering. And yet, for me to win in my marriage looks very different than that. And if I take that same approach, and my whole goal is to win in terms of I have asserted my will over someone else, in this case my wife, I will most certainly lose, right? It's so interesting. And so here we are, where the most important thing, the way that we win, is not to get ourselves to the top of a mountain at the expense of everyone else. It's actually to humble ourselves. And I think that can be confusing, and I know that it can be very, very challenging. The funny thing is, I don't know about you, I'll bet I can guess that you're the same as me. If someone came up and they held a gun to my head and they were like, you have to sacrifice your life for your wife, otherwise she dies, I'd be like, later. I will give my life for her. I will fight for her. I will give my body physically, completely 100%. I will literally die for her. Here's the thing though. As kids, right, we have been like fantasizing about that since we were kids. Like my little boys, my 6 and my 9-year-old will be like, man, if a bad guy came into our house, I would just punch him. I'm like, bro, sure. Like, I'm sure that'll go really well. We've been like fantasizing about that since we were kids. And so here's what I'm going to say. Yes, that would be a sacrifice, but I think we all have a little bit of joy and a little bit of pleasure at that type of sacrifice. So here's what I'm going to say. Maybe this is crazy talk. I think that type of sacrifice, in the email, I believe I said taking a bullet for my wife, or if I have to fight for her physically, like fight some guy because he's disrespected her at the bar or whatever. There's a little bit of pleasure in that, right? I think that type of sacrifice is easier because you know what it does? It actually builds up my ego. I feel great about myself. If I have to fight a dude for my wife, I feel awesome. What's much harder, what is a much harder sacrifice to make, is a sacrifice of my pride, a sacrifice of my ego, whether it's humbling myself to apologize, whether it's humbling myself to simply compromise or sacrifice and say, hey, what you want is in conflict with what I want, and I'm willing to say that what I want is not the most important thing in the world. So here's all we're talking about. It's this simple. The greatest sacrifice that we can make for our wives, and as I've said over and over, and I'm not going to stop saying it, the most fulfilling, meaningful life that you and I can live is one where we give of ourselves for someone else, for something greater than us. Then the greatest sacrifice that we can make is that of our own ego, subjecting our own ego, humbling our own ego for the sake of someone else as an act of love to someone else. Do you have the strength it takes to do that? Talk to you guys in a week.